Hey there and welcome back to my channel. This is Elizabeth with Ellie's Handcrafted Jewelry, and I'm finally back from my little hiatus to share with you how to make this lovely woven ring. It's a little bit more on the intricate side and not recommended for those who are just starting out. However, you can increase the size of the wire to 20 and 28 gauge wires and use a 6mm round cabochon instead if you're not fond of fiddly projects. But before we get started, I'd like to thank Kazdans for sponsoring this video. Kazdans is a gem seller located in the United States and has a variety of high-quality stones. Search by gemstone, shape, size, quality, and more to find the perfect stone for your project. I've left a link in the description below to their website as well as their Facebook page so that you can stay up to date on any new arrivals or sales. And I'd also like to tell you about my new website where you can sign up for a monthly newsletter detailing new tutorials, videos, and any upcoming projects. You can also find some written tutorials for sale if you prefer working at your own pace, and it helps me to continue creating free tutorials for all of you. I've left the links in the description below, and thank you so much for taking the time to support this channel. Now, let's jump into the tutorial. Alright, now to get started in creating this ring, you're going to need a 4mm round cabochon. You're also going to need 20 gauge or 22 gauge wire, and you can see the description below for measurements. 30 gauge weaving wire, and I tend to work from a spool or bobbin. A ruler. You're also going to need your chain nose pliers, some round nose pliers. You're also going to need flush cutters, like these. And then I also recommend having flat nose pliers. They're not necessary, but they're really handy for scrunching wire. A spring clamp from the hardware store to hold my base wires. And last but not least, a ring mandrel. Now I'm going to go ahead and mark the center of my wire, which is 6 inches. So I'm going to mark it here at 3 inches. And I'm going to be making a size 5 ring band. So I'm going to need 2 inches worth of weaving. So I'm going to mark it here at the 2 inches mark and then here at 4 inches. And that should give me plenty of extra wire also for creating any accents. Now I'm going to go ahead and string on my weaving wire. I have my base wires here and my spring clamp to kind of hold everything together. And I'm going to begin by wrapping the weaving wire around the bottom base wire 3 times. Now once I've wrapped on the weaving wire, I'm going to wrap it 1 time around the bottom 2 base wires. And like so. And then bring it in between those 2 base wires. And then I'm going to bring it up around the 2 middle base wires 1 time. Scrunch that down a little bit, and then I'm going to bring the wire in between those 2 wires I just wrapped together, and then around the top 2 base wires 1 time, and then in between those 2 base wires, and then up and around the top base wire 1 time, coming back around the back. And then here is a close-up so you can better see what we've done here. And this is the start of the modified sumac weave. And to continue, we're just going to go ahead and wrap it around the bottom base wire 1 time. And then again around the bottom 2 base wires. Then bringing in between those 2 base wires. Scrunching it down with my nail. And then around the middle 2 base wires 1 time. Then bringing it in between those 2 wires. And then up and around the top 2 base wires, bringing it in between those 2 base wires, and then around the top base wire 1 time. And we're just going to go ahead and continue this weave until we reach the other side of our Sharpie mark. And this is where the flat nose pliers really come in handy. Just keep making sure to keep your weave scrunched down and compressed against the wire. Now, once we've reached the other side and I have 2 inches here worth of woven wire, I'm going to go ahead and take off my little tail piece here at the beginning of the weave. And then from my spool, I'm going to go ahead and cut off a long piece of wire, probably about 10 to 12 inches, just to make sure I have plenty extra. Now this is the back side. This is going to be the inside of the ring, while this is going to be the outside of the ring. So taking that inside part, which isn't perfect, but I'm going to lay it up against the ring mandrel and create my ring band. Now I'm going to grab my little stone and I'm going to set it here in the center carefully so I don't lose it. And I just want to make sure that that bare wire is the same width as my stone, and that's going to be what I weave for the little setting. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out a little bit with my flat nose pliers so that there's a nice place for my stone to sit. Do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to begin weaving these together with the remaining weaving wire that I have still attached. So grabbing my weaving wire, I'm going to wrap it one time around this bottom base wire here. And then I'm going to bring it across the entire top like so, bringing it in between and underneath the ring band. Just being really careful to set this. Once I have it situated, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this around the bottom base wire again one time, making sure that my base wires are straight. And then I'm going to repeat that and go around again like I did before, bringing it through the ring band and then scrunching it over. This is a little close up again so you can see what's going on, and wrapping around that bottom base wire one time, making sure that everything is staying parallel to each other. And we're just going to continue that about 6 to 8 times until my stone can sit in that spot. I'm going to grab my little stone and set it on there. And I might go ahead and weave one more time, but otherwise we're looking pretty good. And I'm just securing my wire by wrapping it a few more times around the outermost base wire. And I'm going to separate these wires a little bit, make sure that they're all straight and sitting next to each other nicely. And I'm going to take the inmost base wire and begin wrapping it over the top like so, just curving it over. And then I'm going to do the same on the opposite side to begin creating a little setting for our stone. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and curve this over, create almost like a little bubble, doing the same on the opposite side. You can also gently use your pliers, just be careful not to mark up the wire too much. Although if you are using a bare wire like copper, you can sand out any tool marks. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and grab my flush cutters and trim off the wire. This will make it a little easier for me to feed it through the ring band. Do the same on the opposite side. And I'm basically going to wrap these wires from underneath the ring band and then over to the top and then secure them on top of the ring band. But before I secure them, I'm going to go ahead and stick my stone in here. Very carefully, my poor little 4mm stone. If I can grab it again, stick it in there. And I'm going to create a more secure setting here using my pliers. Just do this really carefully, especially if you have a fragile stone. You don't want to scratch it or break it. This one happens to be a peridot, so it can put up with quite a bit. Just carefully closing that in so that it holds my stone. And once I've bent this over, I'm going to go ahead and grab my flush cutters. This will adjust your setting a little bit, so just be careful as you are doing that. And then I'm just going to tuck that in here and make sure that this is on the opposite side, holding in my stone. And then just repeat on the opposite side. Now I'm just making some final adjustments, and then once I make sure that my stone is set, I can move on from there. And here you can see I've separated my wires. These two middle wires here I'm actually going to weave together. So I got my weaving wire and I'm going to feed it in between those two wires. And then I'm going to begin my lashing weave by wrapping it around this innermost wire 5 times. Next, I'm going to go ahead and scrunch down this wire with my chain nose pliers. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this tail piece before moving on to the next step, scooting it down. And then I'm going to wrap it around the 2 innermost base wires 2 times. I'm just wrapping around again the innermost base wire 5 more times before wrapping around 2 times again to do my lashing weave. And I'm going to do this probably about 4 or 5 times just to make sure there's plenty of length to go over next to the stone. So I ended up going over 4 times, and I'm going to use my flat nose pliers to kind of help me shape my woven piece. And I'm going to direct it around the stone setting like so. And just doing this very carefully. You don't want to pull too hard. Grabbing my pliers again, just kind of help shape this. I really want to show this weave, so I'm going to go ahead and see if I can fold it over. Now this is long enough, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this tail piece and pull and twist. And then I'm going to feed this through the ring band like before. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and use my flush cutters to trim off any excess, kind of help make that a little easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring this through the ring band and tuck it underneath the weave, kind of like what I did before. So right next to the other wire I tucked in. Now we have this remaining wire here on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and create a single coil by wrapping my weaving wire around it. And I'm just going to coil it for however long of a length I need in order to follow the previous weave. Now I'm going to go ahead and bend this over following the previous weave. Being careful to do such. Scrunching down my wire. And it's a little bit misshapen from where I would like it, so I will grab my pliers and I'm going to go ahead and carefully see if I can adjust that a little bit before setting the wire. Now I'm just going to go ahead and feed this wire through, and I'm not trimming this one because this one I'm actually going to use to create a loop. So I want to make sure that I have plenty to work with once I get it to the other side. And just going to go ahead and create a gentle curve, but before creating a loop I'm going to use this remaining weaving wire and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it around it, kind of like so. And I'm going to do that a couple times at least, maybe a third, just to make sure that that loop is going to be anchored to the ring band. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab my flush cutters and trim the end here, probably leaving about half an inch. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and create a loop on the end of this wire. Now once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and take this weaving wire, feed it through the ring band to the other side, and then I'm going to bring it in through my little loop here, lifting it up just a tad, and I'm going to go ahead and string this through the little loop at the end. That way it'll be secured to the ring band. So I'm wrapping it around once, make sure it's pulled tight against the ring band, but also making sure that there's a little bit of a gap for me to feed this wire through. And I want to wrap that probably at least 3 times, and then I will cut off the excess. Now once I've completed that, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the opposite side. At this point, I'm just going to go ahead and repeat the same steps on the opposite side. You're welcome to skip ahead in the video, or you can watch as I complete this other side. And here's the finished piece. I hope that you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to support my channel, the easiest way you can do that is by liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And you're also invited to join the Facebook group where you can ask questions and share your work. I've left all the links in the description below. Until next time, happy weaving!